So 343 just posted their latest monthly Inside Infinite update. I just read it. My intention was to read it to create some content for Instagram for the evening, but I'm gonna be honest. I'm so excited. So there's so much in this that makes me excited for Infinite. Let's just cover it. I bet you're not gonna read through this. The sleuth. Look at all these words, man. Look at all these words. I bet you're not going to read them. So I've done the hard work for you. I've read them. Let's jump into it and see what's up. First of all, the first cool thing here is that Sketch outlines the expectation for everybody else. Zooming up. He says that Inside Infinite is going to be a monthly thing that they're going to aim for the last Thursday of every month. They're going to try and release these. These are not, per his words, going to be the place that you're going to get like updated campaign gameplay, proper multiplayer reveal, public fighting, you know, stuff like that. Not going to happen in these Inside Infinite updates. Instead, it's going to be per their words, like trying to just talk to the people at 343 and get their perspective on, you know, building Infinite, what their goals while building Infinite are, etc., etc. And I gotta tell you, this month they focus on talking to the Sandbox team. They said in the coming months they're going to be talking to the audio team. The team bringing Zeta Halo to life. Very excited to hear the February update. And the audio team in March. We've already seen a lot of audio team content. It's all just so good. I love it. It's so good. Anyway, this stuff was actually legitimately really cool. I really liked what the Sandbox team had to say. So let's jump freaking into it. First of all, Uni introduces the Sandbox designers who were interviewed as part of this. Quinn Del Hoyo, Mr. Del Hoyo from the Sprint Live No. I'm not familiar with some of these other names. Tim Temmerman, David Price, Brian Berryhill, who Berryhill's apparently the vehicle guy when there is problems in the places. Berryhill! I don't know if that's how they say it. Hope maybe somebody at 343 can tell me if that's what it sounds like. Ellen Gleiber, Kevin Stocker. I'm sorry if I say any of these names wrong. Anyway, all of these gentlemen provide awesome insight. I'm really excited about what they have to say, but holy shit! Can we stop real quick for a second? This battle rifle looks so good. Oh, it looks so good. It looks so good. Damn, that's all I have to say. I cannot wait to shoot that thing hundreds of thousands of times over the course of the next few years. Then jumping in. First of all, there's a cool visualization here of the grapple hook. I think the first thing to start at is Quinn breaks down what Sandbox really refers to in the context of, well, this article and for Halo. Quinn says, game Sandbox refers to all of the vehicles, equipment, weapons, and objects the player will interact with. Essentially all of the toys the players get to play with. It also includes all the player systems and verbs. So like jumping, running, health values, shield recharge time, all these things are incorporated under the Sandbox. Sandbox team's responsibility is to craft those toys and shepherd them through the complete development cycle from concept to polish and ultimately ship. The next part here, actually, I thought was interesting. Quinn is basically saying that the Sandbox team has like a mission statement. They even have this badass little, oh, I'm trying to zoom out here, crest that you can see on screen right now. Sand Wolves. This is cool, man. Shit, we need some stuff like this in KO Qual. Anyway, their mission statement is the following. We create weapons, vehicles, player mechanics, and systems that are intuitive and reward player mastery. Gotta say, really like the sound of that as a vision statement or, you know, goal. We respect Halo's legacy by partnering with our players with the same honesty and integrity we use to craft our gameplay. Also, great thing. I really like that these Sandbox mechanics, these the weapons, the vehicles, player mechanics, that them being intuitive and rewarding player mastery is like at the forefront of their minds as they're doing this. I'm sure, I mean, it's not like it wasn't before. I will say that, like, for me personally, I thought Halo 5 was a little hard. Some of the player mechanics that Halo 5 had made it not super intuitive for lower skilled players. I felt like the skill ceiling in Halo 5 was kind of high. For them to say that they're trying to make all these systems intuitive but also reward player mastery, you know, have depth to them. The Halo 5, I thought the Halo 5 mechanics definitely had depth. They were just a little hard and sometimes intimidating to get into, especially like when chaining you know, chaining them and stuff that you had in Halo 5. Anyway, let's move on. Shut up, man, and keep talking. Quinn breaks down really what that first line means. He says, we feel strongly that everything we create has to be easy to pick up and understand. That grok moment for players. Once we have something that's simple to understand, we push for depth that the player can appreciate and display in game through experience and mastery. We know something's Halo ready when we've achieved those two requirements. Like I said before, very happy to hear, you know, I don't know, they're going there. It's at the forefront of their minds. Clearly, like I said, I'm sure it always is, but anyway, this is a cool insight. The second part of their vision, I'll just summarize it. They are, I mean, this one line right here kind of says it all. This means that we acknowledge that we have a 20-year franchise and recognize that players all around the world have different preferences, likes, dislikes, and we commit to making sure we're mindful of past precedents and core experiences while making sure we're considering feedback from all players, meaning not just campaign players and not just Halo Combat Evolved purists, right, etc. We strive to honor Halo's rich 20-year history. So, also, good to hear. Let's keep going. Now, in this interview, Quinn mentions the combat doctrine, and Uni says he loves it. So, Quinn breaks down, he says it's a document that establishes core Halo gameplay philosophy. Now, as a longtime Halo fan, I was very excited to hear like what this might be in here. It outlines our principles of what must be true when playing in Halo's sandbox, and specifically the moment-to-moment combat. Dope! I want to hear what's up here. The primary purpose of these principles is to shape design discussions regarding foundational Halo combat in both campaign and multiplayer experiences. They guide us as we make decisions today, tomorrow, and henceforth. Every principle has a player goal we must achieve. There's more than we can fully deep dive, so yeah, maybe they'll cover more, but here are the 5 main parts of the combat doctrine. The first part is the dance, the player goal. So the way they break this down is there's a player goal and then a little bit of elaboration on it. In regards to the dance, players must feel that combat is in their hands to win or lose. Halo's combat's dynamic, rhythm of engagement, reactive and cerebral dance that feels like a symphony of combat choices. This principle speaks to the feeling of nuanced combat between players that only Halo provides. We refer to this as the dance. Some of the key ingredients that we keep at the top of mind are the right balance of kill time, movement, using a diverse sandbox, energy shield, etc. In every encounter, the player feels like their choices are what produces the outcome and results. Yeah, we've actually talked about some of the comments made by some of the id developers when designing Doom. Again, yeah, being able to understand, feeling in control and understanding what's going on. So even if you fail in executing, you feel like somehow, you know, you failed, not that it was somehow robbed from you. This is also where he says the classic golden triangles taken into consideration. The dance, and definitely playing Halo. I always talk about the joust. It's kind of maybe in other ways. It's not just the joust itself, that mechanical like 1v1 encounter. It's just, you know, the dance of playing Halo. The fact that I'm keeping in mind like where my positioning is in relation to spawns, how that's going to affect our push for a particular weapon, power weapon, or maybe it's just making that push for, you know, the shotgun. I guess it's like mini power weapon, if you will, the power up, whatever it is, the moment to moment dynamic element of it all. God, love Halo. Second one, tools of engagement. Player goal. Player feels that they are skilled Spartans, armored super soldiers, not just regular foot soldiers. Each weapon or piece of equipment has a distinct feel and skill to use effectively. This encompasses the things that make Halo Halo. Quinn says fluid movement, accurate gunplay while on the move, clear rolls for every weapon, vehicle, etc. One of their major goals, he says, in Halo Infinite was to remove redundancy in the sandbox. Weapons were the first area they wanted strong, there to be strong rules the players gravitate to because of a certain play style. So we started from a blank canvas and called out all the high-level rules and play styles that we wanted players to experience. So you say we start with a blank canvas and call out all the high-level roles and play styles we want players to experience. This is kind of a cool way of thinking about it. And there they get into the details of which specific weapons are going to fill those roles when they get into designing, choosing what weapons. That's also where damage types as a much more feature-rich system come into play. Sorry, I'm looking over here because you're over here to me right now. I'm sorry. They allude to this idea of more damage types a few times in this article, and they don't disclose exactly what they're alluding to, but it does sound, they in another place they say they want you to, when you make a choice of what weapon you're going to pick up, it's not necessarily just because one feels better or is like, I don't know, you like how it shoots better per se, or maybe even how it looks. Like if you think in Halo 4, the differentiation between a DMR and a light rifle was largely just the like aesthetic rate of fire. I think it was a little different, and you know, I would say the mental model of the shooting felt the biggest difference between the guns. I'm sure there were, you know, more minute little details between it, but it felt like it was mostly just like a visual skin and like somehow the mental model applied to executing the shots that was different. It sounds like they're going to be way more focused on giving weapons, you know, making those choices on what weapons you want to use more deliberate, and somehow this elaborated damage type system is going to come into play. You know, as I scroll down and show this is actually an old image from the Halo graphic novel in 2006. They actually allude to, in regards to this damage type, one of the designers later in the article says they're asking them about their favorite weapons, and he says that he really likes the Ravager, and he says something along the lines of, it has this asset denial, area denial element to it, which is very interesting. I didn't really register that from the campaign demo. The Ravager's that big red gun, right, that shoots. But if this is the damage type kind of stuff they're alluding to, having something like the Ravager that you could maybe shoot at some, you know, spot on the map, some geometry or whatever, and prevent sort of the team from, even if it's just a quick, a small amount, a temporary, very small temporary amount of area denial, you know, that can be a big deal. Like this can be another way of combating. Like, I'm just thinking, like, if you're on truth in Halo 5 and you're in a situation where your team takes it, your team is kind of like trapped in a base, but you have, let's say, the Ravager, you could maybe make a play where you can deny the rotation that, you know, the obvious rotation the other team is probably going to take to be able to get like the camo that's about to spawn. Maybe you can block some of those angles down even from your disadvantaged position by using the Ravager. That could be cool, you know, stuff like that. I mean, the pulse grenade, I think, was trying to go after an element of that, right, in Halo 4 and Halo 5. I'll say that I feel like in general where Halo 5's pulse grenade ended up was probably the best iteration of it. It was like super powerful at first in Halo 5, and the Halo 4 one was just a potato. I don't know if anybody super liked it, but it kind of had that element to it. Area denial, show up, block people. Anyway, it'll be interesting to see what they mean by these richer damage type. Or shit, even before we say the next part, you know what I'm thinking is maybe the environments are destructible, and so you could also affect the environments in that way. Maybe you can blow the shit out of some bridge, you know, that eventually respawns. Like maybe it's like that, it's like a light bridge, Forerunner bridge, and if you like just blast it, it goes down temporarily or something. We'll see. Next one. So we have the dance, tools of engagement. Next one's lone wolf. Player feels they can stand alone and be effective without teammates or AI companions. This is something I always talk about of why I like the Halo combat. Like, I like the way they put this: to abide by the principle, we must provide the player with the necessary items and features to empower them, blah, blah, blah. Teamwork will augment the experience, but we need to ensure that the player can feel powerful on their own. Personally, for me, this is such a big deal. This is also part of the reason why I generally dislike class-based gameplay, class-based games, where my character takes on a specific role on the team. And it's not that those games are bad or whatever. It's just that I really like the lone wolf as the fact that it's part of the combat doctrine is cool. It's almost like, I don't know, not edifying, but it confirms to me that it was made like this intentionally for me to love it. Connected to actions is the next one. Players' actions are quick, frictionless, and responsive. I feel like this gets into the toy element of things, like we talked about before in the podcast. And I said, personally, for me, the implementation of Halo 5's controls were really solid. I know they're, with heavy aim and some things that did show up, there's elements of that people didn't feel, but I felt like Halo 5 generally was super smooth and enjoyable, and that the responsiveness of a lot of the mechanics was really good. There was that issue, and I think this is kind of what they're talking about. Everything should feel intuitive, and we don't want the player to have to fight the game in order to have fun. In Halo 5, because you had ground pound, there was this like slight delay to punching in the air. That sucked. So, it's because of this principle and the fact that Halo Infinite will be on PC that led us to rebuild the control scheme. So actually right here they confirm players feel, they're going to allow full control customizations, like full customization. And bindings, so especially they said because it's on PC too, of course. That's number 4, connected to actions. And finally, the last one, survivability. Players have a clear understanding of their vulnerability and threat identification. This principle conveys a couple of important values. First, the importance of systems in the game to provide the player the ability to assess pertinent information. So it's interesting. This gets into like a little bit of the heuristics content I've been reading about in the latest characteristics of games book. We kind of alluded to it on the podcast, but it's basically like a player needs to be able to, well, they don't need to, they don't have to, but the ability to read the state of the game and their relation to this, where they are in the game. If you're in a racing game and there's cars in front of you, you can tell that you're behind. You know what I mean? That's a clear directional, I want to say that's what they call in characteristics game, heuristic. In this game, like, to be able to understand how you're doing is important, especially when it comes to your health and your survivability. Second, the importance of energy shields as a cornerstone mechanic to Halo gameplay. Oh, does my heart good. I cannot imagine, okay? I cannot imagine that with this as one of the key things, one of the key elements called out here explicitly as part of the survivability part of the Halo combat doctrine, that you're going to get a battle royale with ODSTs without shields. They're focusing on the fact that, like, core to the Halo gameplay, you have shields. Also, this might explain why they've decided not to reintroduce Breakout. Everyone's, especially that one dude on Twitter, shout out to him, I guess. I don't know if he's a jerk, not shout out to him. If he's just, a guy who loves Breakout, give him a break. Give him a break. But this might be why they haven't reverted Breakout in Halo 5, because they've maybe along the way after the feedback from Breakout, they've decided that they don't want to mix up the experiences in the sandbox with something like this, right? Breakout had, for those who don't know, it was a Halo 5 mode. It's a one life, 4v4 mode where you also had reduced shields, right? So I don't even know if you had shields. Maybe you didn't have shields, actually. And yeah, people liked it for what it was worth. It definitely had its fans, but also a lot of people didn't. I actually personally was in that camp. I just never chose to play Breakout over the other modes. You know what I mean? And it was this like kind of weird middle ground, because like it wasn't like SWAT where you had your, I guess you did have pistol. I don't know. I guess you must have had an amount of shields, because it didn't feel like SWAT, where in SWAT you shoot them one time in the head, everyone's done. It wasn't like that in Breakout. So I don't know. I personally, guys, this just confirms to me, like, they're not going to expend. Imagine if all this stuff the Sandbox team is talking about, all the processes that they outline in the rest of the article, there's no way that they are going to be putting in the amount of effort required for a well-balanced battle royale game, and this other multiplayer experience. It's like, that's like a whole nother game. I don't know. Maybe you could outsource that to outsource. Did I say that right? To another studio to work on a battle royale and let them deal with it and let them work through the entire process. I don't know, man. I don't know, man. No shields, ODST, Battle Royale. Psh, don't think so. Anyway, was a cool breakdown, and they say like as they're it's a good that combat doctrine provides a good way for them to, you know, decide to quantify whether a new addition or change to vehicles, items, abilities, weapons fits within Halo. So that's pretty cool. That was a pretty cool insight. Now I'll tell you, this next section they talk about the role of equipment in combat. We saw the drop wall in the campaign demo. We saw obviously the grapple hook, which apparently is a pickup in multiplayer, like not in the campaign. Like, you know, you saw Chief going around everywhere with the grapple hook, but it seems like it's more like a pickup in multiplayer. They said a couple things in here that makes it sound like to me they're going like a Halo 3 style stuff, not like Halo 5 where the player had a lot more abilities on them. In fact, right here, EG, who I'm so sorry, I'm not sure exactly who it is. I'll pull this up a little bit right here. But he says, compared to recent Halo titles with more innate abilities, Halo 5, Equipment in Infinite creates fewer overall instances of change within the core combat loop. So that's interesting. That's interesting because I would say that one of the mechanics in Halo 5 that I thought probably my favorite new mechanic was thrust. And I felt that what thrust does add an element of complexity for sure within that core combat loop, and was yet another thing in the way of, you know, we talked about earlier about making Halo easier to get into initially. And Halo 5 with its so many like core mechanics, you had Spartan charge, thrust, clamber, you could stabilize in air. So if you jumped up and zoomed, and if you jumped up, zoomed and pressed jump while zoomed in, you could stabilize for a little bit. You also had, I'm forgetting something, you had slide, you had ground pound. There's just like a shit ton of stuff that you could do at any given time in Halo 5, and I feel like that was part of what made things a little more intimidating for players. It also gave it a lot of depth. But this sounds like this is what they were going for. They felt that the equipment route might be able to help bring that skill floor down a little bit, that minimum skill floor, the minimal amount of skill you need to have to start having fun in this game. I felt it was pretty high in Halo 5. Maybe equipment is one of these ways to try to bring that down. They say we have more room to push the boundaries of our sandbox, allowing new ways for players to express their skill and game knowledge across various playstyles. That's why equipment was the clear choice. It gives us a lot of space to grow and change the meta as the game progresses over the years. I'm honestly really happy about that. I was a little concerned in the campaign demo that they didn't have thrust, and I was like, but I don't know. Extending the gameplay, the gameplay loop through equipment is just so much more versatile and like extendable and modular than having a set of core gameplay mechanics, player mechanics, innate abilities, as EG says, that you have to design everything around. Check out that drop wall. Very nice artistic render. You know how long it would take me? You look at this and you're like, yeah, it's like a strong, slow, and like simple design, blah, blah, blah. You just take me fucking forever to draw. Now they talk about vehicles. They say a lot of stuff, and I'll say Barry Hill's section here where he's talking about the vehicles is really cool. The insights, the way he thinks about them. He says, functionally, I think there are a few things vehicles do uniquely for the sandbox. He calls out 3 things here. First, they unlock new traversal types. And like based off of, and this is actually a pretty cool nugget here. Compared to other Halo games, he says that Halo Infinite has orders of magnitude more complicated environment for players to traverse, and his commitment to the environment team was that he would find a way. Barry Hill's gonna find a way to make good vehicles for all those environments. And he says it took a significant retuning of some of the core vehicles that have been in all the Halos, but you will see the gorgeous environments of Infinite and probably think that it's very much worth it. So that's exciting. Second, he says vehicles organically form player parties. This is so cool. This is so good. This part is so good. Like, you know, people say, I don't think 343 gets Halo. They know Halo. Outside of the fact that if you read this, they talk about their previous experience. How I don't know, guys. I'm not sure about you, but do you wonder why? I mean, like, guys, come on. Of course, if you go work at 343 on Halo, to some extent, you for sure have at least know about it. You at least know about it. And very likely, like these guys, all the Sandbox designers are talking about in here, they played CE. They had the LAN parties, bro. They fucking know what's up. They know what's fun. They say, second, vehicles are getting blah, blah. Listen to this part. You don't say this if you don't know Halo. Every Halo vehicle enthusiast has a story where someone pulled up in a Warthog, beeped the horn they got in, and they spent the whole match playing together. Even if you got destroyed on spawn, you'd find each other to go for another round with another vehicle. Some of my best college buddies were made this way on LAN. Vehicles are the only inherently cooperative part of the sandbox, so they carry the responsibility of forming these connections. That is so good. So good. That is everything you want the lead vehicle designer on Halo to be saying. That they are cognizant of the role that vehicles play in forming player connections in game, that it's a cooperative part of the sandbox. This is what you want to hear. This is so good. This is, I don't know. In my opinion, this is great. Good job, Barry. I mean, yeah, that sounds stupid, but seriously, I think that's great. He says, I think single player vehicles are important for encounter design, but multiplayer vehicles are necessary for Halo's community, baby. This next part also, I love this shit. Holy shit. Good job, Uni. Good job, Sandbox designer. I love this stuff. Feed me this shit every month, please. I love these kind of like design insights right here, where he thinks vehicles are important as a long-term tempo piece for encounters. As an example, a sniper rifle, due to its ammo capacity, has a finite cap to the impact it can have on an encounter map. Vehicles have infinite ammo, meaning they'll exist as a challenge / booned encounter until they're either destroyed or hijacked. With vehicles having this different tempo, we on the Sandbox team give our partner teams the pieces to have more layers to their encounter compositions. This long-term tempo does mean if the sandbox isn't tuned correctly, vehicles can become oppressive quickly. Specifically, what this means to me is that if the Golden Triangle doesn't provide counters to vehicles, they will be dominant. Vehicles will be. The Sandbox team has worked hard to get a healthy interplay between all of our parts, and I think we're in a good spot right now, but we're of course continuing to monitor feedback during play tests and eventually public flighting. This is really interesting. In Halo 5, I actually felt that the Sandbox, you know, the Golden Triangle as they call out here, but the player had maybe a little too much control over the vehicles. So much so that, I don't know, outside of the flying vehicles, I generally, like especially in Warzone games, didn't really use them often. I would just prefer to be Spartan, you know? It'll be interesting now with, you know, less. I think that the Spartan abilities that you had in Halo 5 went a long way. I mean, with thrust sliding and kind of all the crazy shit you could do in Halo 5, you know, you were pretty OP as a Spartan. So tuning some of those innate abilities down, going the equipment route might help. I don't know. I agree with him. I really don't want it to be in a situation. You could also get into the state in Warzone, like if you had another team that was a lot better than you, they would just kick your ass, you know, spawn a bunch of vehicles and just whoop you, and that's not fun either. So that's a hard problem to solve. It's this you know, thinking about it in this way in the tempo. I mean, I don't know what you think when you hear this. If you think, man, why do they overcomplicate things? Blah, blah, blah. But the reason why you love Halo, the reason why Halo is fun, is because of the attention to these details, man, and the way of thinking about this. Not just Halo, the games you love. You might think it's just whatever, but look at all of the details, the thought process that goes into, and this is just tip of the iceberg shit. You don't even know the challenges of then taking around these design philosophies and then implementing them. Like, give me a break, bro. This stuff is tough. And this is such a cool insight. Love this like tempo, the way of thinking about the tempo. The various things in the game have tempos, and how, you know, if you look at a level and you look at the guns, I mean, I just would love if they showed like, hey, you know, here's a multiplayer map. Let's use Halo 5 as an example. We have Plaza. Okay, what weapons do we have on the map? What kind of what kind of impact do they assert over, you know, the gameplay? One way we can evaluate that is, you know, looking at the tempo that they have in game, and it's not just short or long. I bet you they differentiate it at a more granular level across the weapons in the sandbox. Like, yeah, having the battle rifle, what kind of an impact will the battle rifle have? You know, and that impact will change depending on the respawn rate of the weapon. This shit is so interesting. Love it. So this next section with this fucking awesome needler zoom in was like, this is where they allude to this new like damage feature type, damage type. And here's the example that Quinn says that I was alluding to before. If we had the damage type system in Halo 4 when the light rifle was created, instead of having the DMR and light rifle be similar minus different visual effects and tuning, damage tuning, we should have weapon traits unique to the light rifle because it shoots hard light. Hard light. That's like, yeah. So hard light can somehow affect the environment in one way is what that's kind of alluding to, in my opinion. Also, like what I was saying about the Ravager, the brute plasma-ness will somehow affect the environment a certain way. That's exciting. I'm ready for it, baby. I'm here for it. Whatever the fuck is going on over there with damage types, sounds cool. Sounds cool. I'm really excited. If you can't tell, I'm excited. This stuff is cool, man. I'm so excited. Fuck, I can't wait to play this game. Yeah, a little bit more from DP. We want to keep the rules for damage types simple, understandable, and sustainable. Halo has already had a loose set of rules with plasma weapons. We wanted to further define this rule set so players can have expectations of a damage type. For example, keeping the rules simple, blah, 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 blah. If we want to quickly strip personal shields, a person can use plasma, for example. Like the plasma pistol in Halo 5 is the first thing. I mean, Halo is the first thing I think. If you hit somebody with a charged plasma pistol, you immediately take down their shields. But this doesn't dictate a weapon's play style, class, or power level. Oh, what are they saying? What are they saying? I could still have a shotgun style weapon that is any one of these damage types. Interesting. This approach allows us to still make multiple weapons that feel unique within a damage type. Yeah, because if you had a shotgun that shotgunned plasma, that's interesting. Because if you have a plasma pistol where you have a charged shot that even locks on, I mean, fuck, dude. The plasma pistol in Halo 5 was so OP, was so strong. But imagine if you had a shotgun plasma. So you have this trade-off where you need to get close to be able to take down the shields. And you might only take down the shields. You know, like for example, in a plasma pistol, if you can take down a person's shields with a plasma pistol, but you gotta really spam that shit to really close off the deal. It doesn't actually like take damage off the player very effectively. It's mainly meant for taking down shields. So if you had a shotgun that was similar, so you could take down shields close range, but you can't close the deal with that shotgun. That sounds cool. That sounds cool. That sounds interesting because then you get into stuff of like shotgunning them and then punching them or something like that. I like it. I like it. What's the effect of hard light? That's what I want to know. It sounds like hard light is something they're thinking about. Also, hard light. Hard light? That means Promethean stuff. We haven't seen no Prometheans yet. So is that maybe alluding to the fact that Prometheans are in the game? Wouldn't be a huge surprise, but we have technically not seen anything about them yet, or Forerunner stuff. What will hard light do? I'm not sure. What do you guys think? I'd be interested to see what you guys think what hard light will do. Now, just real quick, they talk about the Bulldog in this next section, and I think it's cool what they're saying about the Bulldog. I know there's a little bit of backlash. Like, I'll be honest, I love the classic shotgun. I love that. You know, that's my jam. Everybody's jam. Everyone loves it. However, my life is definitely not going to be over because we have the Bulldog in its place, at least temporarily. Maybe it'll come later. But what they're doing with the Bulldog is cool. It's fast firing, fast loading, but specifically they wanted a shotgun that wasn't a power weapon, is what they call out here previously. We wanted a shotgun that embraces the rapid fire / dish out multiple shots quickly. That's what the Bulldog is. Love that. I love the sound of that. Love the sound of that. But it's also not meant to be too OP. It's meant to facilitate, when they were talking about before, Like, we think about what roles and what kinds of types of gameplay players what we want players to have, and how weapons, you know, facilitate that. Let me scroll down so you see this. Bad boy, doggy boy. One of them, as they're saying here, is the player who wants to play CQC, close quarters combat frontliner kind of player, in your face kind of a player. They felt like right now the Halo Sandbox didn't have a good, like, not power weapon version of that. You had the assault rifle in Halo 5 that kind of let you get up closely, and I think actually the SMG in Halo 5 did that good. But this also might get to them trying to simplify the sandbox and give weapons, you know, their own spot in the sandbox. If you have the Bulldog shotgun, my guess is you're probably not going to have an SMG the style of Halo 5 in Infinite, at least initially, right? Of course, who knows 10 years from now. But when at launch, I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see the SMG. Instead, you just see the Bulldog. The assault rifles may be something in the middle, if you know, it is there. We've seen it before, but not as effective close range. You know, this is, I like what I'm hearing. I'm personally excited to try out the Bulldog. My life's gonna be okay, because I bet you there's gonna be like a classic update that comes later down the road. I mean, you guys, they gotta make money. So there's gonna be a free to play. It's a free to play game. We gotta have that classic update, you know, that I shell out like $60 for. So I am seriously buying every damn variant of a classic shotgun. I know you guys who have problems with the microtransaction stuff. I'm part of the problem. I'm sorry. I'll buy it all. I'm sorry. But what the fuck do I have money for? You know, I want to, again, focus on what Barry Hill says here about the process of making changes to some of this game. Like, so you get feedback, right? And so this is a great walkthrough of what it sounds like it's like. Okay, listen to what he says. So a lot of feedback comes in for very raw and honest. We get the feedback. It's nice to be able to dig into the root cause of the frustration. So somebody says the mongoose sucks because it's too slow. That's what they say. And so he says, it can be a lot of things. That can mean a lot of things. Is the acceleration too slow? Does it lose too much momentum when turning? Is the top speed too slow? Does it lose too much momentum when landing? Does it have too wide of a turn radius even? Once we understand the real ask, we measure that against the design goals we have for the vehicle. If we're getting feedback that shows we're not meeting our goals, then we begin working on a patch. So that in itself already sounds like quite the process, interesting. You know, this patch though that they're working on, they start working on a patch. This patch is put into multiple internal flights, starting with our Sandbox. Starting with our Sandbox shelf playtest, where Sandbox designers test work we haven't even committed to the main build yet. So this is like a branch of the game off that the Sandbox teams works with. If the Sandbox team gives it the thumbs up, we submit the changes and begin collecting feedback from the motor pool, which is the vehicle team, then the campaign team and multiplayer team in their frequent playtests. You understand the scale of already just those tests, the kinds of people who are in those tests, right? This is already like significant. Now, this is already amount of time too. How much time does that take? I gotta think if we're working in terms of sprints, which are like 2 week, usually 2 week. They can be different of varying length, but usually like 2 week segments of work where you break down the tasks you're gonna get done in those 2 weeks, and you estimate how much you can do, and blah 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 blah. I gotta think that starting from the process of getting the feedback to getting through the motor pool campaign and multiplayer teams and stuff like that has got to bare minimum take 2 sprints. That's my head, like around a month just to do that stuff. During this time, I also make sure to ping people in the studio who have a lot of interests / opinions on Halo vehicles to get their perspective. After all of that, so he's kind of implying that is a lot of work. And like I said, it sounds like that's at least like a month's work of time. That's kind of assuming that sounds like pretty best case scenario. Like you're not really super busy and you can focus on this kind of stuff. The Sandbox team, the multiplayer team, the campaign team, the motor pool team are all going to be doing their own shit, you know? So testing the mongoose might kind of get put down the realm. Like, maybe, I mean, this happens. I'm sure this happens, right? You have the situation where the Sandbox team says, hey, we have a new Mongoose patch, you know, try it out. Motor pool team gets on it next sprint. Campaign team has some open time, gets on next sprint. Multiplayer team's busy working on a bunch of other shit, so that shifts a sprint. So, you know, realistically, you're waiting on feedback from everybody, but the other teams have their priorities of what they're trying to execute. I wouldn't be surprised that like a patch for a vehicle takes 1 or 2 months, even internally, to try. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. But maybe 343 are like legends. They figured it out. I also am not super aware of like how big all of these teams are, what kind of resources we're talking about, whether they have like a dedicated segment of the team set aside to just like process feedback and requests from other parts of the studio. Shit, dude. Lots of stuff. After all of that, though, we work with our user research and community teams and eventually public flighting to make sure these changes address relevant feedback. So, like, flighting also is the last thing he says. Like, that's not in game yet. All of this stuff, you could catch something in flighting, man. And you see it. You often do. The Halo insiders do. Like, I'm part of the insider program or whatever. You'll see the insiders catch stuff that wasn't caught earlier on, just to exemplify how first of all, how difficult it is to sort of catch everything when you're doing this stuff, and to get that. Yeah, it seems overwhelming, really, the amount of testing that goes into all this stuff and putting it out. Really cool insight there on the amount of work it takes. And this is just a Mongoose patch. This isn't like a new gun. Imagine the amount of time that you take in making the gun and develop, first coming up with the concept, art, working on it, implementing it from a Sandbox perspective with the goals and designs, and iterating on that many times before you even get to this state. God, dude, it seems like it would take like a year to make a Mongoose. The next section, they talk about controls. I think that's one thing they say here is that PC is a first-class citizen in their head when they're making it. This is not just an Xbox game. They have an internal pro team made up of prior pro Halo players working on there. I know Miquin, oh god, I can't remember his name. Clutch is in there. Oh no, I'm gonna forget. L-Town's in there. L-Town actually played the campaign demo. Fun fact. They replied to me on Twitter and told me, I'm so cool. They replied to me on Twitter. Fuck, dude. I know. PC is a first-class endeavor in Halo Infinite. PC as a platform is not going to be a port after we launch the game. We're playing on PC every day, so that's good to hear. So now, not only does our game need to feel great and like Halo on a controller like it has natively for the past 20 years, the game and all of its systems need to take into account native mouse and keyboard functionality. They're saying their target is to be as good or better than other shooters. So they are really trying to make sure it is a top-tier PC experience. So, cool. Now, in relation to, first of all, look at this Hydra dude. Ooh, I like it. It's aggressive. It's more aggressive. Love this angle to it. Obviously, the metallic textures and stuff are very cool, especially after, personally kind of felt like Halo 5 felt a little plasticky. There's limitations there on processing for sure on the potato box one, but anyway, this is looking great first and foremost. Also excited to see how the Hydra returns. I really thought the Hydra was interesting. It can be pretty OP in situations, but was really a cool new thing to introduce into Halo 5. So they ask him, like, how are you guys doing in the Sandbox? What are you guys up to? Especially now knowing that Halo Infinite is going to be coming out in the fall. This was interesting. They say Sandbox is super busy. We are fixing bugs on launch content and some exciting efforts, including kicking off stuff for future updates, like new vehicles, equipment. But we're pretty much play testing a ton and looking for ways to polish and improve everything. All of our launch content is in-game and being played daily, but it takes a strong effort to get something from 90% to a full 100% ship quality. This is something we've talked about after reading Game Design Lenses from Jesse Schell, where he talks about like making 90% of the game takes 90% of the time, and that last 10% takes the other 90% of the time. Meaning that last bit of polish to get to 100% ship quality takes a long time. Don't personally have that experience of trying to ship something like that, especially on a game with the, you know, the attentional magnitude scale that something in a AAA space like Halo's gonna get. But man, pushing it to full 100% ship quality. So it sounds like the guns that are supposed to be there in launch are in game and being tested already. So I don't know. It makes me feel like they're going to be pretty well polished by the time we get to public flighting, which they do allude to and talk to here, and they've confirmed before is coming. My guess is going to be like it's a post E3 thing. That's what I think. Barring they say something else before that, I don't think they will. I think that E3 is going to come out. They're going to show the multiplayer. They're going to show some more updated campaign stuff, and they're going to announce flighting. That's my guess. I think flighting coming this summer. So we're pushing hard to squash bugs and tune our toys so they're in a good spot. Yeah. Very cool. And as we get closer to launch and public flighting before that, we're also taking time to evaluate the visuals of certain sandbox items with the goals of ensuring, excuse me, everything is landing the way the art directors envision. As a result, some sandbox items we previously shown might be getting a facelift here and there by the time you see them again. That's interesting. Again, this is another thing. Yeah, your weapon might work well and everything like that, but what if art decides, yeah, guys, this thing over here sucks. You have to take it out, but you built this feature in for the Hydra sort of around the fact that since this was there, you could leverage it. It's like a scope. All of a sudden now maybe the Hydra doesn't have a scope anymore because art says it's ugly as fuck. You know, I don't know if that ever happens. Seems like it could by the way they're describing things in some GDC talks, but and finally, this last section is pretty interesting. I've got 2 more questions before I let you go. He says, what's your favorite weapon, vehicle, or equipment in Halo Infinite? If we haven't shown it yet, can you give us any hints? So let me go through this. Quinn says, one of my favorite sandbox items is a vehicle that we haven't shown yet, but I'm sure I won't be alone with my favoritism once we do reveal it to the community. This vehicle isn't totally brand new, but it's received a fresh coat of paint while awaiting its triumphant return to Halo. Gut feeling, man, this is the Falcon. I gotta think it's the flying Warthog, man. If you get 3 buds on a flying super duper, I wonder, is it faster now? You know, ooh, that could be fun. I don't know. That's what I'm gonna say. Falcon. That's what he's talking about. TT says we have some really exciting equipment we haven't shown yet. Ooh, the Grapple Shot is probably my favorite of the bunch that we have shown. Not only does it just feel fun to use, oh, listen to this. Listen to this. There's additional functionality that hasn't been revealed yet that adds some more offense-focused gameplay that I'm super excited to show off. Are you telling me that I can shoot my Grapple Shot around somebody's throat and choke them to death? Or maybe I can catch them and pull them at me? I don't know. That's weird. Like, wouldn't that be too OP? I'm not sure. I'd be interested to see what it is. Can you shoot it like at the floor and sort of thrust your way around by like shooting Grapple Shot everywhere? I'm not sure. DP says the Ravager. This is where I get my area denial thing, by the way. The Ravager's got to be one of my favorite weapons. It's changed a little too since it was debuted in the campaign reveal. Its role and play style have been pushed to allow for more area of denial play while still delivering a unique launcher style platform. Sounds cool, man. The Grapple Shot, EG says, is definitely a favorite of his, but I'm equally excited about an equipment item we haven't shown yet. So tell me what you think this is. It's highly physics-based, has tons of interactions across our sandbox, and will leave you laughing or yelling, "Did you see that?" I can't wait to see what this is. Proper timing is everything with this equipment, and if you position correctly, you could very well send your enemies flying. That sounds cool, man. I mean, my favorite vehicle, BB says, has to be the Warthog, right? BB's got more. BB Berryhill, man. BB Berryhill knows what's up. He says, there's no other choice. The Warthog's the GOAT. Although, we are working on a new vehicle that's looking pretty hot. This new vehicle will sit nicely between the Warthog and the Scorpion for you non-Halo fans in our community. Warthog being the Jeep turret and the Scorpion being the tank in terms of power level. So something that sits in between there? Ooh, that's cool, man. That's cool. I'm assuming it probably sits somewhere in between there in the middle too. Probably not a mammoth. Probably not something like that. It should ignite some discussions on what vehicle to take into missions. That's interesting too. Choosing what vehicles you take into missions. Maybe you're like in this base, you know, here, and you're kind of choosing your weapons and your loadouts that you've unlocked through gameplay, and you're deciding what you want to take out. You know, that would be super cool. That would be super cool. We just got our initial concept in of this, and it's really lit a fire on their team to get into flying. Woo! So maybe this sounds like a vehicle that maybe wasn't planned to be in at launch, but now maybe will be in at launch, and they can maybe sneak it into flighting. Shit, that would be cool, man. Oh, that'd be cool. So the article closes out with Quinn on behalf of the Sandbox team talking, you know, saying thank you. Also, oh, sorry, I skipped one part. Kevin Stalker. All I have to say is he's responsible for being able to throw fusion coals, apparently, because one day he just decided to make it and see what happens. God bless you, Kevin Stalker. Thank you. Thank you for you and your doomed state of fusion coils. The entire Halo community salutes you, Mr. Stalker. No, I didn't say your name wrong. All right, well, I think that's all the questions I have for now. Thank you again for joining us to talk about Halo Infinite. Before you go, do you have any closing words? And Quinn says on behalf of the Sandbox community, he says thank you, Mr. Community Team Guy, Sketch and Uni, for supporting us and talking about us. You're the best. Secondly, he wants to close out by just reiterating that they have a strong commitment towards doing good by the players. I mean, I really shorted it right there. We'll do everything in our power to nurture the player-sandbox relationship, being honest in all our communications. There'll be times we have to make trade-offs for the greater good and can't address every request from every specific subgroup of players, but we'll always close the loop and share our reasoning, even when it's an outcome some may disagree with. We'll exhibit integrity when it comes to our actions. We'll finish what we set out to do, and if we make mistakes, we'll always be truthful with our players and rectify that mistake decisively, no matter what. We've always felt this way. With Infinite being built as a game that will grow and evolve over time, partnership with our community to help inform priorities and opportunities is more critical than ever. This year is going to be an exciting one for all of us. Launch is only the beginning. Very cool. Exciting. Super exciting. I hope they do the sprint, man. I hope they do another one of the sprint Vidoc series. I love that shit, dude. That concludes the interview, everybody. So that concludes the interview. Now, I'll finish it with, I'm sorry. Hold on, it's not done. Tales from the Trenches takes a few, excerpts from like Sam Hanshaw, who's the live producer, Josh Marvel, senior lighting artist, Danielle Gianetti, game foundation architect. Some things they're excited for. Sam calls out like, you should definitely join the Halo Insider program if you're not excited yet already. He's excited about doing the flighting program and some of the stuff they're already doing with internal play tests and closed flighting and everything like that. But yeah, I'll reiterate, go to Halo Insider if you want to join the Insider program. I'm part of it. It's a lot of fun. It was fun like testing out the MCC when they started like all along the way, but especially at the very beginning when they started like making it better again. That was cool. Next, Josh Marvel saying how many of the graphical features they've developed over the last 6 months at the same time while we're refining the lighting and environment art for the world has been really cool. He's been excited to incorporate many of these graphical features. I'm excited to see him. I know everybody is. In earlier iterations, we were just getting the major components of the world to a fully featured playable state, but now we're reconsidering how they interact and improving what helps the world to be its most beautiful and intriguing. We're excited to share more soon. I am too. Holy shit. I mean, if this, if the Infinite playstyle is more reminiscent, like if this is like the vibe, this is what it looks like, with the kind of mood, the lighting environment. This is also a weird Banshee, by the way. Hey, that's a weird Banshee. Anyway, I'm super excited to see how the environment art evolves. And as a software developer, blah blah blah, I think Danielle's comments here. Here's something that excites me as an engineering architect. For Halo Infinite, we rebuilt the engine multi-threading solution to ensure high execution efficiency across all platforms and PCs, instead of running optimally just on Xbox One. We use this new system to transition the renderer to a massively parallel multi-threaded framework to support the increased cost of all our new rendering features and achieve high graphics efficiency on PC CPUs of various size, as well as the Series XS and Xbox One XS hardware. So, yeah, that's cool. Practice, this means that we're doing our very best to make sure Halo Infinite runs optimally on any device that you may choose to play it on. Very interesting to see how those results pan out in the coming months as they show more. and we all get a chance to play it. I still have a potato box 1 over here. So this is actually the last thing. Joe Staten talks about playing a couple of hunters during Halo Infinite, and basically what he says is, you know, if you're a longtime Halo player, you know how you deal with the hunters. You run up to them, you shoot somebody, you turn around, they commit to hitting you, you spin around, and you shoot them in the back, and it's game over for these guys. However, things didn't work out exactly this way when he faced some of the Halo Infinite hunters. He was basically saying that they turn faster now, so you can't just do that and get away with it. This time, he says he uses the Grapple Shot to make himself more fast, you know, to get into a position to close them out. He says this is just one example from a single encounter from like some changes the Sandbox team that have made that I want to say how he says, the Grapple Shot didn't cheese my encounter with the hunters. It deepened it, simultaneously made me feel more powerful and the hunters more intelligent. That's cool. We all know the rules had changed, but the hunters weren't going to let me dance on their graves without a fight. This is just some example of how the changes the Sandbox team are making are improving, not just, deepening and expanding the Halo combat toolkit. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it, Joe. I love it, Joe. That's it. Sorry. I'm not sorry. Not sorry. This is a long video. If you stuck around until the end, you must be as excited about Halo Infinite as I am. So, on to Halo Infinite. Super hype. We just recorded a new episode of Bramoala with Brian from Sacred Icon Halo, so check that out. If it's not up right now, it'll be up soon. But we have a Bramoala Halo podcast. You can check it out. It's so good. And join our Discord if you're looking for a Halo crew. We have a growing Halo community going on in the Discord. You can find a link in our bio or down below if you're watching on YouTube. And yes, come hang out with us. We also play usually every weekend, on the weekends on Twitch. It's just a good time. If you're looking for fellow Halo dudes, thank you so much. Let me know if you'd like to see more of this kind of stuff or how you would like to see changes. Until next time, everybody. Shout out to all our patrons, especially our Koala Manjaro subscribers, Sand Squid, Marcus the OK, I Got Your Potatoes, Carter Johnson, and to our Koala-tacular subscribers, thank you guys so much for your unbelievable support. If you'd be interested in supporting us on Patreon, I know you get a ton of stuff with your benefits. You get a free sticker of your corresponding tier when you sign up. You get a free sticker every 3 months if you're in the Koala-tacular Koala Manjaro, and you get free merch every 6 months if you're in Koala Manjaro, and alongside patron game night, behind the scenes content access, music content, all kinds of stuff. It's easy to sign up. There's a link in our bio for the Patreon. Again, it helps our studio so much if you sign up. Thank you. Thank you again.